Hello and welcome back to this Downplaylistic Crusade. This will be a short video just showing the handful of new Blu-ray, DVD, and because I can't seem to not get them, a single VHS tape I've added to my collection that I've picked up in the past couple weeks. So this is a mix of new and old stuff. So I'll start with the Blu-rays first. Of course, I keep finding, there's so many great Warner Archive titles that, I'm still catching up on stuff from last year where they really, just hit it out of the park once again. They're doing that already here in 2022. So Amazon has been having crazy sales and random discounts on a lot of Warner Archive titles, and they now have a Warner Archive storefront there. So unfortunately, if you want Warner Archive discs, you're pretty much stuck with Amazon. You can still get them other places, but the availability isn't the greatest. And also, they're putting some of these on such sales. They're Curse of Frankenstein Warner Archive Blu-ray, which is one of the best Blu-rays ever made, that everybody should have, is frequently on sale for $9.99, and that just blows my mind. So I've been chipping away, and some of the newer titles I've wanted to get, I'm always afraid if I purchase it now, it might suddenly be $5 less in a week or a day or two. So sometimes I'm waiting a little bit here and there. So I'm going to get all of them eventually, but I also do have to space them out to try and make it easier on my wallet. But I did pick up some of the new releases, so I had to get the Technicolor restoration of National Velvet. This is one of the big Technicolor restorations they did in the past year. I'm really wanting to look at this. I can't wait to see what this looks like. This has had element problems for years. It was thought a Blu-ray was impossible, so the old DVD was based off the last Laserdisc master, so it is a very old, very not super great looking DVD that people have been stuck with for years. So this should be a dramatic improvement. This is one of two sort of family centric films that they restored in Technicolor. The other is The Yearling, which I can't wait to look at as well. The next was a complete surprise announcement. I can't wait to see this in HD as the 1945 World War II Errol Flynn vehicle, Objective Burma, directed by the legendary Raoul Walsh, shot by the legendary James Wong Howe. This is one of the best World War II films ever made. It still holds up remarkably well today because it is extremely gritty and realistic. And the only problem is that it changes the story from being about British forces to American forces. And that caused a big uproar when the film was released. So it got banned in Britain. So unfortunately, it was not seen a lot outside the US. But outside of that, this is, for me, I mean, I haven't seen every classic World War II film made during the period in Hollywood, but of all the ones I've seen, this is just about the most realistic one. This is the one where you see, the get men behind enemy lines in the jungle. You feel the sweat on their brow. They're getting, they're increasingly more dirty and unshaven. They're having to put tablets in their, they're having to fill their canteens and then put disinfectant tablets in the water. So they're miserable, and you feel every step of their trek. It is beautifully made. Again, it's just about the most realistic of the classic period World War II films, and Errol Flynn is fantastic as the lead commander. He is completely believable in every moment. You feel his responsibility over the men. He conveys that perfectly, but he's also a human being still, so he has to keep his emotions in check. It's beautifully done. Again, the only real problem historically is that it changed the story from being about British soldiers to American soldiers who were not a part of this campaign. So made a lot of people mad when it came out, but it's still an incredible film. It's not at all the sort of World War II adventure film that you would expect from this era. It's a total 180 from the initial World War II vehicles that they put Errol Flynn in, which are great in their own right, and I love them, but they are very much, adventure yarns, that's what they would have been called back then. They're very much not about historical accuracy or the gravity of the situation, where Objective Burma completely is. Next is a noir I haven't seen in a long time, so I can't wait to see this new scan from the Warner Archive. This is the 1949 noir The Window, which is based on a Cornell Woolrich story and was directed by Ted Tetzlaff, who was a phenomenal cinematographer who actually shot Hitchcock's Notorious. So that's primarily where I know him from. But this is a great noir. It's centered around a child figure, so it's basically basically a child sees something and is not believed and is in mortal peril. It's a great suspenseful noir. Again, I haven't seen this in years. I saw it on TCM many years ago. Really enjoyed it. So this was a great surprise to hear the archive was doing it. So I can't wait to look at this new scan. Next up are 2 Shout Factory releases I've wanted to get for years, but always tried to get them when they were on sale, and then finally did. So it took me a little while, but I finally got them. So this first one's a double feature. It's 2 films I don't like to watch very often because I'm a Raymond Chandler diehard, and unfortunately I find way too many issues with most of the film adaptations, but I am a gigantic Robert Mitchum fan, so I had to finally grab the double feature pairing of Farewell My Lovely with The Big Sleep. These are the 2 70s adaptations where they were adapting Chandler novels, and you finally have Robert Mitchum playing Philip Marlowe, a role he seemed almost born to play. And it's one of the great shames that he never got to try out the role when he was younger. But that's the best part of these films. You do have some notable other faces in them. Farewell My Lovely is definitely the stronger of the 2. The Big Sleep is a big mess because they transfer all the events to London, so it's Britain based and it just does not work. However, you do get Jimmy Stewart in a Raymond Chandler adaptation talking to Robert Mitchum. That alone is worth the price of admission, even if the movie is pretty crummy. So yeah, this was a nice surprise to finally get these on Blu-ray. These had a pretty spotty video history. They did finally get a DVD release, but that took many years. And then shortly thereafter, Shout did this select Blu-ray release. It does have some new extras. It's pretty much pre-existing masters for these, but at least they have lossless mono. They have some extras. You get both on the same disc, so it's pretty affordable when you get it on sale. So I can't really recommend these as a full-on Chandler nerd, but they do have their pluses. Some people really like these, particularly Farewell My Lovely. Again, everybody pretty much agrees the Big Sleep version here is just not very good. But it's a must for Mitchum fans. It's a must for Chandler aficionados, so I was going to get this anyway. But yeah, I haven't seen these in HD before, so this will be fun to spend through these again and to check out the extras. This is one I've wanted to get for ages, and it's pretty much the best you can do in terms of the releases for this film. So that is the Shout Select Collector's Edition of Midnight Run, which is one of my favorite films of the 80s, one of the most underrated films of the 80s, and a truly great buddy comedy. This is the film that truly showed Robert De Niro's comedic chops. It's also got great grounding, so it's not all about humor. Its closest precedent, or the film closest to it in tone, basically imagine Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but if the pair were, of course, a bounty hunter trying to get his bounty back across the country, and pretty much everything goes wrong. It has a nice gritty edge to it. It has a nice sardonic humor, but it's also got great gags in it as well. So it's a real treat if you've never seen it. And unfortunately, this film has been pretty much plagued by very crummy or subpar video releases. The Laserdisc was open matte, it's not widescreen. The DVD was okay, but it's rather old. And then most of the Blu-ray releases have been overseas and are not good masters, and each one got a little bit better, but then finally Shout Factory did this one, which is slightly better than the other ones. So, it is credited as a 2K new interpositive scan. It is slightly better than all the other foreign releases, so this is the best you can do. And it does have a nice bit of extras and some new interviews and things that were done for this. So this is just one I've wanted to get forever. It doesn't go on sale as much, so when it was finally cheap enough, I was like, yes, I'm finally going to get this. Next is a Masters of Cinema title. This is an older one, but I wanted to get this over the standard US version. So this is number 79 in their spines. So this is the MOC release of Serpico, the Sidney Lumet film, iconically starring Al Pacino. This is, I believe, similar or pretty much the same master as what Paramount put out on their DVD here. This does port over all the Paramount extras, but this has a nice booklet and is part of the MOC series. This did also, I believe, get a steelbook version, but that, of course, sold out very quickly. But it's got nice interior art and a pretty thick booklet, which is a nice touch. So this has been on my wish list for way too long, as with a lot of other MOC titles. But the reason why I really wanted to get this before it went out of print completely, again, you can get the Paramount Blu-ray here, and it's pretty much the same, but it just doesn't have as nice of a presentation as the MOC disc. But there was a new 4K master made and has come out overseas, but unfortunately, the color timing is very unfortunate. It's got a lot of teal and other nastiness in it. So, yeah, even though this film does now have a 4K version available, I do think color-wise you are better off sticking with the already available Blu-rays. So I don't know if that'll be adjusted somehow if a 4K release is done over here, but if there is one, I doubt it. I'm pretty sure it will be the same color grading. So for the time being, I think the MOC Blu-ray is probably about the best you can do. And so I can now finally retire my old Paramount DVD. And then lastly, this was surprisingly a very cheap eBay find. You don't buy it now with free shipping and under $10 for an Arrow disc. I'm like, I'm sold. So I managed to finally get the Arrow Incredible Shrinking Man. So I flipped it around, has original poster art here, which looks really great. As I talked about my Criterion review of the film, this is an older master, seems to be the Universal, the one Universal made for the DVD. But because the sort of DNR or very soft, grainless appearance of the new 4K restoration, some people do prefer the old sort of over sharpened nature of the master here on the Arrow disc. So this was not really necessary because the Criterion is still better in other areas, but I have wanted to really listen to the Tim Lucas commentary because I've heard a lot of good stuff about it. So this was really more of a, I really want to hear the commentary and I want to just look at the Arrow presentation for myself. And it has original art and it just was right time, right place, and very cheap price. So I now finally have the Arrow release and I'll be listening to the Tim Lucas commentary as soon as possible. Now this is the single VHS title I was talking about. I don't really go looking for VHS tapes unless I'm looking for a particular pressing run or I'm trying to do some audio comparisons and I try to look at some tapes and things because usually most titles are not going to appear on tape in local stores. It's the big sellers and the tapes that sold millions of copies back in the day, and they'll be in varying condition. But also because, unfortunately, the cost of VHS tapes is going up now because of people collecting certain films and genre films, and especially horror films. But occasionally I see something like this, and it's so cheap that I'm like, well, I might as well, because I can always just trade it in or resell it if I don't need it later. But this is a film that is not available on DVD, not available on Blu-ray. It's a much requested film. It's one of the great silent classics. And I also don't have the Laserdisc yet. So this is a MGM held, which would now be Warner held, silent masterpiece that is only available on VHS and Laserdisc. So when I saw this sticking out of a bin for less than $1, I had to get the MGM Silent Classics release of The Crowd. This is the 1928 King Vidor masterpiece silent film that is one of the essential silent films to see, but unfortunately it's quite difficult to see. So this has the wonderful Silent Classics banner they were doing at this time. This tape was released in 1988, and slightly later, I believe in 90 or 91, the Laserdisc came out. I've been meaning to get that, but I could just never find a copy that isn't overpriced. It's not a very common LD. So again, this was 50 cents. So it's in pretty much perfect shape. It's probably going to be the same master as what's on the Laserdisc, I'm pretty sure. So it's also cute. The price sticker from in the 90s is still on there for $7. But yeah, it's got the silver MGM label from the time. And while VHS is not the means you want to, discover a film for the first time, unfortunately, with The Crowd, because there is no restoration and there is no DVD or Blu-ray from the Warner Archive as of yet, your best options are going to be VHS or Laserdisc or the once-in-a-blue moon screening that happens on TCM. They have shown it a couple times, I believe, but it is very few and far between in terms of the broadcast airings of this. So this is one of the essential silent films, and again, it was 50 cents. So I'm just like, I haven't got the Laserdisc yet, so I went ahead and grabbed the tape when I saw it sticking out of a bin. And then lastly, I have a couple DVDs to go over that I just found in used shops and bargain bins and things. And these are mostly uncommon. So to start with, this is an MGM release of a 1958 World War II film directed by Roy Ward Baker that I've never seen. So this is The One That Got Away, done with the similar sort of styling they were doing for things like the special edition DVD of The Great Escape. So obviously they tried to make it look like that. And I don't think this has a whole lot of video releases, but when I come across vintage classic films, particularly films that are not very common for, a quarter or 50 cents, then it's like, okay, as long as the disc surface is okay and it's not covered in scratches, yes, I will take this for for less than $1. The same thing goes for any Warner Archive title. So this is actually from a 1976 TV movie starring Linda Blair and Martin Sheen. So this is the TV film Sweet Hostage. It's credited as a remastered edition, which the archive does on some of their MOD discs, but it's just so rare to see a Warner Archive disc in the wild, let alone in a bargain bin. So if I see the blue anywhere, if I see the blue spines, it's like it doesn't even matter what it is. So I know it'll be worth a watch, and it's not going to. It's very infrequent that I find Warner Archive MOD DVD-Rs just floating around in bargain bins, so this was a no-brainer. This is one I've wanted to get for a while. It's one of those MGM collector's editions that, unfortunately, all the extras on here were not ported over to the better Blu-rays that came later. And also, it's got really nice fold-out packaging that's very impressive. So when you come across these, they're really cool pieces of video history, and again, usually have some exclusive extras, so this is no exception. This is the 2-disc special edition of The Magnificent Seven from 2006. Really nice art, even though it is a little modernized, but it looks really, really nice. And this is actually a full-on slip box. So, again, the primary draw of this release is it has some extras, and I believe it's the secondary commentary that was not ported over to the Blu-ray. So MGM had a real spotty history of that. They've got a lot of films that had extras on DVD that did not get ported over. A lot of films around this time got these special editions. So things like this film, A Bridge Too Far, got a special edition. So did Battle of Britain, and some of the others where you have to go out and track down the specific 2-disc DVD sets to get all the extras, because the Blu-ray just has the commentary or some extras or no extras. But what's great about this is you get a full fold-out digipack with custom art. This is the kind of stuff they don't do anymore. And then here is the custom disc trays for everything. It's in nice shape. It's not perfect because, unfortunately, the booklet has a little creasing. But, I've always wanted to get this for the additional extras, and the packaging is really nice. So, I'm okay with a little creasing because it was only $1.50. So it's like I can make do sometimes with bargain DVD items. But it's really great to see how wonderful packaging could be in the DVD era. In a lot of ways, I don't think it's been surpassed even in Blu-ray. Some of the boutique labels are doing great jobs, but you're just not seeing this from studios. And also, this is the right amount of swag and fancy packaging without overdoing it, so it's not expensive to manufacture. I still really miss DVD packages like this, where it has a premium feel, but it also is easier to manufacture and still protects the disc because they're actually on hubs, and gives you that premium feel, but it's not super expensive to manufacture or to actually purchase. So I think that a lot of stuff in the DVD era was a nice sweet spot in terms of cool packaging that also is still able to be put on a shelf and able to be used and enjoyed. Another nice surprise was from Fox's really cool Cinema Classics collection that frequently did boxes or slipcovers. The Michael Shayne Mysteries, Volume 1. These are B mystery films that Fox was doing in the early 40s. Again, sort of competing with themselves because they were still doing their Charlie Chan films and the Mr. Moto films and other things. So this brings together 4 films with similar restorations and extras as we got on the Charlie Chan and Mr. Moto sets. This is a nice package. Unfortunately, I believe it's the first film is not included. It was released on DVD beforehand. So if you want to get into these, which I've never actually gotten to see any of these, you will need to track that down as well. These are nice DVD slim cases with custom art, each holding 2 films, and then each one has a little bit of extras and a restoration comparison. So these were all subjected to the same sort of process as the Charlie Chan films and other films in the Cinema Classics line. Also has a really nice large booklet with information about the films, information about the character and his literary source, and then, of course, the chapter listings for each of the films. So this is a nice little set, and it's not particularly hard to find. It's not super expensive, but it's not something I would expect to just see floating around on a store shelf, and especially for dirt cheap. And also because it's Fox, it's very likely that these films will not have another release, since Fox has been swallowed up by Disney, and this is a very niche genre title, and getting on up there in age, of course. So it is very possible this is the best and perhaps final release of these films that we're ever going to see on home video, because I think it would be a bit of a stretch for Fox or Disney to license these out for Blu-ray. But of course, anything's possible, if they decide they like a boutique label enough. But still, this just seemed like so much fun to jump into, and I'll have to also track down the first film, which is on DVD outside the box set. And then I saved the best for last. This is definitely the rarest disc that I've found in a long while in a store. Never thought I would own this. This is now incredibly expensive and long out of print. A copy of this will set you back usually well over $100 on eBay. So it was a huge surprise to just walk into a store and see the 2006 release of the 1980s Flash Gordon animated series, which I've always wanted to see. And the more I get into Flash Gordon, I found out about this series, and then they included an episode on the big Arrow and Studio Canal Blu-ray releases of the restoration of the 1980 film. So it makes it even more frustrating that you can't see the series, and it's out of print, and it's sort of in rights limbo too. So this is the only way to see the series. And this is a wonderful slip box, which isn't always on most releases, but this slips off literally like a VHS sleeve. And then inside, you get a full printed booklet with the entirety of the episode list, but it's actually not just an episode list, but an actual description of every episode, and then each one gets an identifying photo too, which is a really nice touch. So you can tell somebody really liked this series and took the time to do something this dedicated. I think the big thing that keeps these materials in and out of print is that they're tied into the Hearst Empire. So that means it seems to be that they're tougher to license, or they're only licensed for a certain time. But this still has all the original inserts, so you get a fun promo about anime on DVD. This is actually a pretty significant fold-out booklet, too. Then here's the original insert hyping other releases, including the Defenders of the Earth series, which included Flash Gordon along with Mandrake the Magician and my personal favorite, The Phantom. And The Phantom is always out of print in both the original stories and the various cartoons and things. I myself am still dying for a complete series release of the Phantom 2040 series from the mid-90s, which is a fantastic cartoon that was way ahead of its time, and that unfortunately has no series release here in the US outside of the pilot episode. So if this had been able to continue, we might have finally seen some things like that. And I still hope that these shows can come back into print. And I'm, again, still really hoping that Phantom 2040 can ever get a series release, because you can at least see episodes on YouTube or floating around online in not so good quality, but it's a fantastic show that I think really predates Batman Beyond by a number of years, and also had animation from the guys behind Aeon Flux. So it's a show that's really ahead of its time, and that's what I'm always sort of thinking of when I get into this type of cartoons featuring these characters, all held under the Hearst umbrella. And it also has two really nicely done art cards, and then each has information about the artist. Then the disc case itself has the discs on double-tier hubs. So it's the complete series on 4 discs with nice label art. And again, it's just impossible to find this in any case, let alone complete and in good shape. There are a number of extras included. So there's a full 20-minute documentary on the making of the series. Then there are also 3 episode commentary tracks from the original producers and writers and animators. Then there's a storyboard to screen comparison. then intensive photo gallery with model sheets, then profiles of the various characters, and then some trivia text screens. It also says there are some DVD-ROM features, including scripts, storyboards, and pages from the original series Bible. And then also it does include the first episode of the Defenders of the Earth series, so you get that bonus as well. I can't believe I found this. So this is again the biggest surprise of just hunting around for DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten in a long time. I've looked for this before on eBay since I discovered its existence, and the more and more I got into Flash Gordon after falling in love with the film and the Alex Raymond strips and the original serials, the more I really wanted to see this. And then I saw one episode and then found that getting these DVDs would probably cost me like $150 or more sometimes. Some of the eBay prices are pretty absurd, so this was a complete and utter surprise. So that does it for this particular just local Blu-ray and DVD finds, and of course some online finds as well, and the one VHS tape because I just can't resist them. As always, leave any questions or comments you have below. I always enjoy hearing from anybody who likes watching my video rambles, and I'm just always amazed at what I can come across either on eBay, hopping on and hunting around for a bit, or digging around in local stores. So, every once in a while you just come across something like just walking in and finding the Flash Gordon animated series box set just sitting on a shelf, and it's, well under the eBay price it goes for. It's just like, this had my name on it, I guess, So it always pays to, search your local stores and support your local stores so we can keep them going and in business, especially in these times where people aren't buying as much. But as always, keep your players going, keep your disc spinning, keep physical media alive, and thanks ever so much for watching.